After that, I hated myself so much. I couldn't even look at myself in the mirror, not because I thought I was ugly or disgusting, because I hated myself so much.
Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel today. Well, if you do not know who I am, my name is Bekah Bavery, and I am a certified primal health coach, a certified ketogenic nutrition specialist, a nurse, and I am also a proper human diet coach in Dr. Ken Berry's community. And I am here with the great Amy Hosp, who is also an author and on a proper human diet. And I'm going to let her tell you her story of why she should not be alive. Amy, so can you tell me a little bit about your story, how you came to carnivore and why?
Yes, and before I do that, I just want to let you know that you were breaking up and frozen for a moment. Do you need to do something about that? Sorry.
No, it should be okay.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. I thought maybe the computer was freaking out because I'm here. That I get that reaction. Maybe. So anyway, so I started on carnivore January 20th, 2024. Semi-start, my official date is January 20th, but I took 2 weeks to weed out what I bought. As a matter of fact, I had just gone to the grocery store on the 19th and decided on the 20th for some miraculous reason, no, I'm not going to eat any of that stuff. I'm doing carnivore. But then my conscience took the better of me. And I thought, well, I need to at least try to eat the groceries I just bought. So I ate out of those what I could closely to carnivore. Packed up all of the food that I had left over that had been sitting in my pantry that I never ate, and took it to a needy family. Some people say, why did you take unhealthy food to them? Well, they had no food. So this was better option for them. And I told them what I was doing. So maybe they've made a change. But the reason that part of my story is important is because I had all of that food in my pantry and in my freezer and my refrigerator that never got fixed because I never felt like fixing it. I would have all these plans in my head. Oh, I'll do this. I'll do this because that'll be better than running to fast food. So I'll be a little healthier, and it never happened. I just was not able to stand up long enough because of postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome.
POTS.
POTS. So what happens when you stand up? Your blood heads to your feet, and you don't have. For myself, the reason this happens for me, I have Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome, which is a collagen disorder, connective tissue disorder. I don't make good collagen. So in order for your muscles and blood vessels to pump your blood back up to your head and your heart where you need it, it took a lot. And it would be like someone climbing several flights of stairs for that situation to happen for me to get my blood back up. So particularly if you're out of shape and you go up a couple of flights of stairs and you're breathing and you feel a little dizzy, that's what I was like just standing up out of a chair. So therefore, for me to stand up and cook something, it just never really happened. And if I did cook something, then I certainly couldn't clean up afterwards because that required more standing. So that's why I always had that food. And so I was really glad about carnivore because there are two things, and I'll tell you a little history about why these things are important, but there are really two top things and then a third one that has improved greatly. First of all, with my Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, you have pain 24/7. You dislocate joints, tear muscles, tendons. I could, just reach down and scratch my ankle and, my shoulder slip out of place, subluxation, or if I reach down to pick up my purse off of the floor, it's not an indication of how much junk I had in it, but I could dislocate my wrist doing that. It's stupid how many ways you can injure yourself with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. But that pain, overall pain, is gone. I do not ache from head to toe. I used to dislocate something every single day, and I don't know when the last time was you dislocated something. But
I have never dislocated anything.
You haven't? Oh, you're fortunate. Yeah, it's extremely uncomfortable. I mean, people, have to go
I've seen people like have that happen and seen it put back in place, and the pain it looks excruciating.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. And sometimes it's not that bad with EDS, but sometimes it's worse, but I don't do that, but maybe 3 or 4 times a month now instead of every day.
That's a big improvement.
Yes, that's because I'm feeding my muscles and tendons and all, with meat. Now my collagen isn't really, I can't take collagen. A lot of people take collagen to help with their strength of their muscles and things. I can't do that because it's a protein in EDS. It's a protein that makes the collagen the switchover doesn't work well. It's faulty. And so it reminds me of wicker chairs, like the chair I'm sitting in, this chair I'm sitting in, like a wicker chair. And if you, in 50 years, this chair, instead of the pieces being like this, they're probably going to be like this. And that's what my collagen is like. So it breaks, you can touch it and it just kind of crumbles, that. So think about your collagen as being strong in a person without EDS. Their collagen is strong and you can't break through it. But my collagen, you could break through it. And that's what causes the injuries. Who knew that carnivore, I didn't know this at the beginning, but so who knew that carnivore would help me? And what carnivore does, it doesn't give me extra collagen. And maybe you can explain this a little better, but it supports the bad collagen that I have, where before I was not having anything that would support the bad collagen that I have. It was just, lagging on its own. But the way that I'm eating, the collagen I have is supported better because of carnivore diet. Does that make sense?
It does make sense, but I'm not sure if I can explain it other than maybe it's more that people that are not eating animal protein, which is better to build what we need, that like if you're not eating animal protein, then you're probably going to have worse outcomes with Ehlers-Danlos. I think probably it's more that because most people don't eat enough animal protein.
Yes. So across the board, I'm hearing from people who have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome that are doing carnivore that their pain is better and that they're not dislocating as much. And there's no cure for EDS. There's no treatment. I'm going to say previously there was no treatment for EDS. You manage injuries as they come. And so I would say that carnivore is definitely a treatment for EDS because your goal in getting treatment is getting rid of your pain and your dislocations.
Yeah. Well, and I want to caveat that for people who may not know, Ehlers-Danlos is, I do believe it is genetic, and I do believe it is autosomal recessive, meaning that you have to have both the recessive mutation from both your mom and your dad. It's not just one and you express it. You have to have both to express full Ehlers-Danlos.
I'm glad you said it that way because I think it depends on what type of Ehlers you have. Currently it's changing all the time because
I know there's multiple ones with multiple.
Right now, as far as I know, there's about 16 different types. And in Ehlers, though, you're never going to have just one. There's always crossover because collagen is collagen. I don't know if they could actually say, well, this piece of collagen is going to do exactly this to you, but a lot of vascular crossover with EDS, with almost all types of EDS, in my own personal opinion, what I've noticed. I also have another genetic disorder called osteogenesis imperfecta, and that is brittle bone disease, but it's also a connective tissue disorder. And also, in my own personal non-medical opinion, but just from my research, I think that not all people with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome have osteogenesis imperfecta, but I do think that all people with osteogenesis imperfecta have some form of Ehlers, and just that it's connective tissue. So it's supposedly very rare to have these two together. I don't think it's so rare. I think it's just undiscovered, undiagnosed. So I remember when I first found out about Ehlers, it was 2012 when I was first diagnosed in my mid 30s, early 40s. I don't even know how old I am. I think my mid 40s. So that's common age to be diagnosed with EDS. Excuse me. And so it was a shock, but it was so validating that, oh my gosh, there really is something wrong with me. This is not my imagination. Not everybody hurts like this all day long, every day. Your
Yep.
best day with Ehlers-Danlos is like a normal person's worst day with the flu. You feel like that every single day. And even now, um, I don't feel 100% of what somebody else would say is 100%. And
Okay.
I just came to this realization, the best way to explain this. So if you're completely healthy and you're feeling 100% because you went on carnivore and you're feeling better and everything's better and you're 100%, that's probably 70 to 75% for me.
Okay.
Yours, but that's 100% for me. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Yes, I get what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's so important. So, the other thing that is much better is my depression. And this is the one thing that I wish that I could express to everybody on earth that ever has had depression, is going through depression, is how much carnivore helps. And again, in my own personal non-medical opinion, I think it's because my brain is so much clearer and I can
Okay.
think through situations. Carnivore clears out things. Uh, and so it's given my brain the energy, the ability to have the energy that it needs to work. And so this is a silly little story, but about 2 weeks ago, I wanted to go to the store and get some eggs. So I ordered online at night and I go to pick up my eggs and they're like, we don't have any eggs. I'm like, well, actually, I got a message. We don't have any eggs. I'm like, what do you mean you don't have any eggs? Because I thought, oh no, this is getting worse because my Sam's store for like the past 3 times I went there didn't have any eggs.
It's happening here too.
Yeah. So I thought, oh no, my
Although
main,
I think that's leveled out now, and we can
yes.
get eggs now.
Yes, me too. But I thought this is the main part of my diet that I'm doing right now. I've got to have eggs. What am I going to do? Oh my gosh, I knew I couldn't do it. I knew I wouldn't be successful at this. Oh my gosh, what is going to happen? And then I would just go further and further downhill. And within an hour, I'm like, I knew I should have never, you know what, this, I should have never tried. It's never going to, I just might as well shoot myself. That's exactly where my depression took me all the time. Well, it didn't happen this time because I thought, that's not right. Let me call the store. So I called the store. Do y'all have any eggs in your store? We sure do. Well, how come I didn't get any? And they're like, oh, because your order was picked at night before they restocked the shelves. If you order now, we'll have some eggs for you. And I was like, well, I can't do that. I'll have to wait for another day or two because you have to have $20 to pick up an order. He goes, not anymore, you don't. So within my complaining, I learned that I should ask a question before complaining first. But you know
Mhm.
what? Then I thought, okay, well, I'll just go to Sam's and get my eggs. Um, and then I thought, wait a minute, there's probably 20 or 30 grocery stores between my house and Sam's that I could stop and check if there are eggs there. I could call them. I'm going to
Mhm.
find eggs today. Not a big deal. I was able to think that process through instead of getting so overwhelmed because
Instead
it
of
was overwhelming.
spiraling. Yeah, instead
Yeah.
of the spiral. So me and you are both faith-based. There's a really great book, called by Jenny Allen, called Get Out of Your Head. And it's a fantastic book. If anybody out there wants a book on negative thinking and how to change it into, you know, change your stinking thinking, it really will help. But it's interesting that it's easier to implement when you're feeding your body correctly. And what we mean by that is that we are eating enough animal fat and animal protein to fuel our bodies correctly.
Mhm.
And it is pretty interesting because that is one of the biggest things that people are seeing is, well, man, my brain fog lifted, or, man, my mental health and anxiety are so much better. And it's like it was anecdotal, right? That's how brain energy, Dr. Christopher Palmer. He's like, man, my patients who are doing this to lose weight, their mental health issues are getting better. Maybe we should study that. I find that fascinating.
Yes, very much so, because right now I have so many things that I want to go and do, and my body has not quite caught up with my brain energy. Boy, if it had, I would have so many things done by 6 o'clock tonight that I've wanted to do for 7 years.
Yep.
I mean, that's what it feels like. But
Well, you know what we haven't talked about, and I feel like we need to, is what has been your struggle with weight? Because
so
your story, you not only are you a genetic anomaly because you have you have different genetic issues that
yeah,
that really have stacked up, and like even geneticists are like, you should not have this many things genetically together like this. You're like 1 in 1 trillion, but your issues aside from genetics started as a child. And so, and I want you to go through your childhood, what you became and why you had to quit. And you might know where I'm going with that.
yeah. So okay, so really, I think that my weight problem's pretty much genetic. I'm adopted, and I
Mhm.
found my parents. Very great. I call it an Oprah story. You know, uh, really, really, really great story. So, but when I met my both sides of my birth family, there were some heavy women on both sides. The family I grew up in, everybody was skinny. They could eat anything they wanted and stayed skinny. And, I certainly did not inherit those genes. But funny I say that because through research, I found out that my adopted mom and I are like eight cousins, eight cousins once removed or something. So I really did stay in the family, I guess. They tried to get rid of me, but I'm just kidding.
They just it just didn't work.
They couldn't get rid of me. No, but so I had surgery when I was 3 because I was born with, I guess it's called kidney reflux. I'm not sure I ever knew the right name, but a tube from my kidney to my bladder that was backwards. And
Your
so,
ureter reflux. Okay, yeah.
yeah, so and that was because of Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. That is actually a big marker of Ehlers.
Mhm.
Everything that's ever been wrong with me it's because of Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. Found out later. So
Yep.
with that, my mom had a hard time potty training me, and so evidently I was in trouble a lot, because. And then when I went to school, um, there was a chair that you had to sit in to go to the bathroom. Well, the students aren't stupid. It's a free trip out of the room. Are you kidding? Whether you had to potty or not. But I never could get in the chair. And so I would wet my pants at school.
Mhm.
And turned out that I wet my pants every day until 3rd grade. And because of those formative potty training years, things that went on, wet my bed until 5th grade, and it wasn't something that I could control. It now I understand, if I really think back with the collagen, the laxity of the bladder and everything else, I can understand how that happened.
Mhm.
But fortunately, I don't do that anymore, not even when I laugh too hard. So
Well, that's good.
I've overcome.
Yeah,
But my mom put me on my first diet when I was 8 years old because I was heavy, and
that's crazy. 8 years
she
of eight.
at 8. But you have to realize it was the early 70s, and
People were
Twiggy,
thin.
yeah, people were thin.
People were
Children were not heavy like they are now. I was probably 30 or 40 pounds heavier than my classmates, which in today's standard is not heavy compared to, where the kids are at today. But
yeah.
that probably set me up for some depression, some ideas in my head about maybe nobody was happy with me. It certainly made me very concerned about how I looked to others. And I
Yeah.
grew up in a society where looks, it's really funny. It was a small town and nobody was really super fancy, but
Mhm.
maybe it was reputation looks are more important than the way you physically looked. But as a kid, I just knew that you always had to look your best and do your best. And a lot of people were watching me on my dieting when I was dieting. I was on a major diet every single year of my childhood, even up through my first 2 years of college. And people watched. Do you know how small towns are? So if I ate a Twinkie instead of my green beans, then my mom knew. And
Yeah. Yeah.
so and it actually at my high school. when I got into high school, I don't share this story very often, but because it was a small town, so the cooks that we had in elementary, same cooks when I got to high school. So we would be
Mhm.
in the lunch line. The cheerleaders are behind me, the football players are in front of me, and here I am, 30, 40 pounds heavier than everybody else, who are still all skinny. In the 80s, they were still really skinny.
Yeah.
So, and then the cook would say, "Oh, Amy," I mean, daily, Rebecca, as if one time or 20 wasn't enough, daily, to the point that I stopped buying my lunch at school daily. "Oh, Amy, oh, hi. Oh my gosh, you were so cute when you were little, when your mom put you on a diet and you would trade all your diet food for everybody else's fat food." Everybody would start laughing at me, and it was just so embarrassing. And that wasn't my mother's fault, but the it was just the way the society was at the time. So that
Yeah.
set me up for I'd already had an eating disorder. I started with an eating disorder when I was 5. I'm sure that it had to do with wetting my pants every day, and the whole time my mom had me on a diet, I was hungry. Not because she was starving me by any means, but we weren't dieting with a carnivore diet. We were doing
Mhm.
Weight Watchers. Enough said with that. They're spiking carbs and, so I
Hungry.
was hungry.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was told, the whole household is suffering because you're on a diet, you better not cheat, and just lots and lots of pressure. I would actually hide in my closet with a can of mushroom soup and bread and eat that when I would get home from school. Well, that wasn't helping anything, So, um, between my freshman and sophomore year of college, we had a family friend, who had gone to uh, supposedly a fitness and nutrition program,
Mhm.
which I don't even think they called it nutrition. Probably just eating healthy. Nutrition wasn't a big word in the late 80s,
Yeah.
but that it was an exercise program. You'll learn how to eat right. Well, turns out it was an eating disorder unit, behavioral unit. Uh, so I went inpatient for eating disorder. I had an
Okay.
eating disorder, so that was probably
What
helpful.
was your what was your eating disorder?
At that time, it was overeating, so
Okay.
binging. Yeah, I did learn some other behaviors while I was there, which happens. And also very interesting, do you know who was in this eating disorders unit? Older women. I was the youngest one. Isn't that
Interesting.
interesting?
That is
Today,
interesting.
they're all teenagers, young adults
They
and teenagers.
are. That's so interesting.
It's interesting. So, yeah. So, and I think I lost probably, I think 60 pounds that summer, which still put me overweight. Okay. But,
Mhm.
uh, experienced some, sexual abuse as a result of that when I went back to school, and just a lot of things happened around it. Right. So, um, that's something too that now the world knows. I've never really told maybe just a handful of people, but it's an important part of the story because
Yeah.
it did things to my self esteem, and that's
Yeah.
one of
I
the
think
things.
that's yeah.
Yeah,
That's
so
why a lot
that
of people hide it. Another reason why, like, people don't tell it
yeah.
is because of what it does to you mentally. Yeah.
And truthfully, the more you say it out loud, the less of an impact it has on your brain. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
that's true on a counseling standpoint. But you know, so I didn't really date a lot, just because I was not thin, and guys back then, they didn't date heavy women,
Mhm.
So I did get married. I was married for 3 years, and my ex-husband decided to live an alternative lifestyle. We'll just say it that way.
Okay.
And, which of course led to my self-esteem. Of course, I thought it had nothing to do with him. I thought it had to do because I'm too heavy, and that was at my heaviest weight at that point. And I had all kinds of crazy dieting. I did eventually I won't tell you the whole story, but I did eventually change to starving myself. And girl, I could starve myself with the best of them. Like all those skinny girls out there, I could beat them on that. And I lost about 100 pounds. Uh,
Okay.
still weighed more than I weigh right now once I had lost that 100 pounds, you know. So
And
it's
that
just,
was basically fasting.
it was, no, it was starvation. There's a big
And
difference.
well, I was trying to put it in a nice way, but so anorexia.
Yeah. So
Yep.
I literally for 6 months, to this day, I don't know how I did it. I guess I was heavy enough. I was feeding my body. Maybe that's how I did it. Anybody
Mhm.
else might have died. But 6 months, I would go one night a week on a Wednesday night and have 1/4 a cup of rice, little side serving of rice, about a fourth a cup of rice. That's what I ate for the week. That was it. Drank very little water. I didn't allow food into my house. I mean, just the mindset shift was just crazy. It was just, I don't mean to say crazy, no pun intended, I should say, but it was just
We're
so.
all a little crazy. It's good. It's all good.
But if people could just understand what happens to your brain and how quickly everything that you ever saw as positive is negative. I mean, it's just like looking in a mirror backwards or something. I don't know, but um so eating disorder behavior thoughts probably stay with you forever if you don't do anything to help them. And this is also something that I think that most people that go on carnivore have had some type of addiction or eating disorder type behavior to begin with, or they wouldn't have gotten themselves into the place, for carnivore. Now, there are those who are extremely healthy and recognize the health benefits and just want to be more healthy with carnivore. But I think a large majority of people, I've learned that women, mainly women, because I'm one of them, are always looking for a weight loss program, and they hear about the success with carnivore and they jump on it, and they don't realize all the other benefits that they're going to get. Well, I didn't do that with carnivore. I had some very dear friends at my church that had been doing carnivore for a couple of years, and they saw how I had to use a wheelchair because of my POTS. I couldn't walk very far. I couldn't stand up very long without passing out. When I started carnivore, I couldn't stand up long enough to fry an egg. Um, you know, so I had to be very creative when I started carnivore. How am I going to feed myself? I live alone. There's no support. Nobody's going to come over and cook dinner and clean up or bring me something. It's just I know a lot of people and have a lot of friends, but live a pretty much isolated life once I'm at home. And I'm learning to like that. I'm a people person, so it is very rough, right? But like I would drive to McDonald's and order something just so I would have somebody to talk to. And I would say to the person, in the window, "Oh, I love your hair," or "It's busy today. Is that helping your time go?" Or "Isn't it pretty?" I mean, I could think of a million things to say just to have a connection. So
Yeah.
anyway, that's a little bit off topic, but it's important though because the support from other carnivores is just absolutely incredible. It turns
Yeah.
out to, I've been there, I've done that. Let me help you. You know.
Mhm. I
So
will say that we do have a pretty close-knit community for the most part. There are those few, those zealots. And so if you're a zealot out there, we don't like you in the community, just saying. We need you to be nice and kind. That's my soapbox. Anyway, so yes, most people though are so kind and they're so helpful and they want to help. Like we're all like band together because we're all there for the same purpose.
yes, I feel like I have found a secret to my health
Mhm.
because you know I put my name different on one of my accounts. Uh, from the Liberty of It All. It's an LLC that I have, and I like the name the Liberty of All because it encompasses everything. But
Yeah.
I just changed on this particular account to my EDS is reversive
Of
in me because EDS is progressive. The older you get, the worse it gets.
course it gets, yep.
Yeah, and there you can't stop that, and that's because
Especially
when
in women. Women, it's so much worse, I think, because we have a harder time after a certain age. Once we hit, postmenopausal, we have even more difficulties in building collagen. So it's even worse for people with Ehlers-Danlos.
Yes, for sure. And so, but not anymore. I think that my Ehlers is going backwards, really and truly. When I was a kid, I didn't injure myself as much. I didn't feel good, and I had plenty of surgeries and things, but I was just a super flexible kid,
Yeah.
And now I'm not nearly as flexible because that collagen is just even weaker naturally without Ehlers. Everybody gets stiffer when they're older. So, but it's just been such a joy to find the things that before would trip me up and stop me. And my determination is, I don't know. I honestly, I believe that people with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, it's a gift that God gives you to be determined. You have to be determined. I mean, with POTS, same thing with Ehlers. Take a shower, and I'm way sweatier than I had been if I hadn't showered in 6 weeks after that shower. So I have a shower chair, but that still doesn't really help that much. So your temperature gauge is kind of broken with POTS. That's how I like to describe it in a layman's term. So if your body is hot, your temperature gauge, it's dysautonomia. Your automatic nervous system kind of freaks out on you, doesn't work really well. I guess because your nerves are made of collagen. I don't know the connection, but I'll
Nerves
find
are
it.
made of, we use a lot of fat. There's a lot of fat in there because the sheath, the myelin sheath is covers it. It's just nothing but fat.
Okay, so let me take a little break from explaining what happens with the temperature because I had this thought the other day. So if I've got a lot of fat in my body and my fat is stored there from, I mean, like I probably could look at my right leg and say, oh, those are all the Snicker bars that I ate. The sugar settles and stores. The Oreos are on the left side. But have to have a sense of humor about it. But
here's the Coca-Cola. This is the Hershey Gold Bar. That was mine.
Right here. Yeah. Yes.
Those are the donuts and the ice cream.
So, I mean, if you think about it that way, that reminds you, oh yeah, I don't need any more on my left side. I'm certainly not going to eat a Snickers, I mean, anyway. But I was thinking, so if I'm not starving, and by the way, when I was starving myself, my depression plummeted to levels that I cannot even begin to tell you. And after that, I hated myself so much. I couldn't even look at myself in the mirror, not because I thought I was ugly or disgusting, because I hated myself so much. It just did something to my psyche. And my thoughts behind this are, if my body was feeding itself off of my fat, that was not healthy fat that I had stored in my body. That was full of toxins, seed oils, dye, all the things that the food that made me fat that I ate still hanging around in my body. So now if I start burning my own fat, sometimes if you do keto and you have keto flu, I kind of wonder if it's because your fat that's coming out is not healthy fat. So on carnivore, I'm eating healthy fat, putting it in, that's giving my body something to live off of that's healthy so that the rest of my fat can be used to burn off. It's not really even being used. It's just coming off. It's like there's no reason for it to be there anymore. So I don't know, that's my new working theory. But it makes sense though that, anyway, but so in the shower, I'm sweating to death and my body would say, oh, you're hot. Let me heat you up. And you nearly have heat stroke. And then 2 or 3 hours later, finally, when you cool down, your body does the same thing. Oh, you're cold. Here, let me cool you off. I don't care what I can get under electric blankets. I could put on every pair of socks I own and I can't get warm. And you nearly go into shock. I don't know very many people who can have near heat stroke and shock every single day of their life and function. So we're strong. I'm a strong, very, very strong person. I don't know if mentally or determination. I don't know, but
I think that the term that we're looking for here is that you are resilient.
Maybe. Honestly, there's not much that I can't find something happy or funny about. And
we've noticed that about you in the community. I think that's one of the big things is like, it doesn't matter. You've always got a silver lining. You've always got a happy attitude. And were you like that before carnivore, or is that something that developed after, or was that just who you are?
It's just who I am. I get that from my dad. My dad was that way. I would watch my dad. We would go to Walmart or be at the grocery store together. And, there's the mom with the screaming kids, and my dad waiting in line behind us. And, everybody's like, let them go so they can get out of here. And my dad would say, boy, you got a really good looking family, or boy, he's really determined kid. He's, you're doing a good job. He would just encourage them so much. And I saw how that made other people feel. And I had been made fun of so much in my lifetime and put down, and I never want anybody to feel like I felt. So I paid attention to that, and that's where part of that comes from. I just want people to feel good about themselves. It's, in my opinion, about 90% of the battle. If you don't like yourself enough to do something to help yourself,
you're your own worst critic, and you're your own biggest bully. People do not understand that. And I think that that's something in mental health. Like, everybody's got this whole like self-care movement that's really going on. Like, people need to practice self-care. And they're like, well, I need to go get a massage, but they're not talking about the voice. Nobody's talking about the voice in your head, because that voice in your head is the one that when you look in the mirror, like, you're fat, you're ugly, you're worthless, you're never going to be anybody. And it's your own voice. And if we don't tackle that, then there's no way you can have your own self-care, if that makes sense. I don't like the whole self-love movement. I think that that's misplaced. So I say self-care. But I love that what you're doing is we live better lives by lifting others up.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah. So I feel like, just like, have you seen the picture of the statue, or like, it's not a statue, but it's like a graphic where there's a father, like a white outline of a father statue, and it's like holes in it. And then you see it holding a statue of a child, and it's made out of the pieces that were taken out of the father. And it's like, when you give to others, it is a blessing.
Yes, yes. Because especially too, if you have such poor self-esteem and you've made somebody else feel better, it gives you a moment of joy, But there were times though that I would compliment people just to get the attention off of myself, because I knew when I walked in a room, they were thinking, thank goodness I'm not as big as she is, or, I mean, that's another thing that we do. We compare ourselves, and other people compare ourselves to us, and we find that to be a negative thing, but we're comparing ourselves to others because we don't have enough confidence to be okay with who we are. And, scripturally speaking, if you focus your mind on the Lord and you fill your mind every day with the word, the renewing of your mind, then that's going to, if you're really doing that and you're really doing it at heart, then you believe what God has said about you, and you have a choice to make. You either believe that or you don't. And, the reason that my YouTube channel, the reason I named it A Carnivore Created in Secret, is because I had been watched my whole life. I didn't want anybody to know that I was on a diet, because I knew they were going to judge me or think, thank God somebody's trying to help you, or just nothing positive ever ran through my head if I knew somebody, knew that I was on a diet. And now I spread the news about carnivore like it's the gospel. I'll be at the gas station filling up, and I'll look at the person at the next pump, and I'll think of something to say so I can include a conversation about carnivore. Like, oh man, long day today, isn't it? Bet you're tired. I'm tired. But I used to be a lot more tired when I didn't eat carnivore. I mean, I'm not kidding. I talk to everybody about it. I want everybody to know. And I cannot tell you how many people that I've said, as of this morning, I've lost 57 pounds. I can't tell you how many times I've said, even at 30 pounds, I've lost 30 pounds. They're like, really? What are you doing? And I go back and I see this person again. You know what? I heard what you said, and I've lost 20 pounds now. They all start carnivore.
That's great.
Yeah. So, but this whole thing about believing lies that you tell yourself. Um, our parents say things to us, our peers say things to us, and because when we're young, we don't know that that's not a core belief. We can't think of it in an adult way, so we perceive it in a childlike way. And the scripture even says that, you when you were children, you thought like children, but now that you're adult, you have to be more mature. And so I've never blamed my problems. They weren't my parents' fault. They were the way that I perceived them. And as an adult, it's my responsibility to either keep believing what I believed as a child, which became my core beliefs, or I can believe what the Word of God says. Or if I don't want to believe in the Word of God, I could do the love yourself stuff like we
Movement.
talked about, because and I understand about that because you can't depend on yourself. If you're a believer, you have to depend on the Lord. You can't have confidence in yourself. You have confidence because he's in you. And that's what's missing, in case anybody's wondering what's wrong with that, love yourself movement. That's the problem.
Jesus is missing.
Yes. And that's detrimental to your entire body's health overall, But anyway, so more congenital things. Should I tell you about a few of the others that I have talked to you about?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Yes, because like I said, Amy is quite the geneticist's study. I'm not going to say anything rude about that. Like say something else. No, she is a study in genetics.
I used to tell my heart surgeon that, he would diagnose me. He diagnosed me with, well, I have 6 congenital heart issues. We'll get into a little bit of that. But he said, Amy, this is extremely rare. Only 9 people in the world have ever been diagnosed with this. Well, first of all, no, that can't be true. But he's a little bit on the dramatic side sometimes. But I used to tell him, I said, you're right. I'm like some rare jewel that some gentleman would love to have. The problem is I'm like an old rare rock and nobody wants a rock. So
have you ever seen an uncut diamond?
Somebody better come with a pretty big chisel. That's what I'm saying. Anyway.
Stop it.
No, that's good. Of course, I say that in jest, but because I just have so many of the health issues. Okay, so this is the biggest thing that I struggle with, but I also think that it's one of the things that having carnivore is going to be able to help me get it fixed, which before it would never, at the weight that I was at, I could have never gotten it fixed. Maybe I could, but maybe I was so high risk. I don't know what the deal is, but especially heart doctors. I have one heart doctor, well, 2 of them that know that I have all of these things. The rest of them try to educate me how you can't have those 2 at the same time and waste our appointment, telling me that. And I'm, so anyway.
I'm sorry.
Oh.
No. Tell Pip your story. So tell your heart story.
Yes. So
back at it without a dog barking.
Of course. Listen, I'm old enough that they really didn't test babies for heart issues when I was born. Plus being adopted, I don't know if that was something that they neglected to do because of that situation. I really have no idea.
Well, okay, I don't know what year you were born, but I was born in 1981, and they still in 1981 were not doing ultrasounds on babies, like on pregnant mothers. That did not even come in until maybe the late 80s. I think I'm not sure, but nobody knew. Nobody knew. So they wouldn't have even known to been able to look at it. Yeah. So it was just like luck of the draw. And then when the baby pops out, it's like, oh crap, they're blue. We should probably see if there's something wrong.
Well, not ever having had my own children, and my mother not being the one to give birth to me, I didn't know much about my birth story until I met my birth mother, and I was able to get my birth records from the adoption agency, and so my scores were pretty low at birth, and that could very well have been why. But hey, they certainly weren't testing back in 1941, so I'm not that old. I'm just kidding.
I was going to say, you're not. I know you're not that old.
I was trying to make a point of how good I look for that age.
Stop it.
Okay, so
I was gonna say that would put you in your 80s, honey.
well, actually,
No, we're not working. We're not doing that.
all of my grandmothers, they died in their 90s, and they all look like they were in their 60s. So I'm really hoping that that is a portion that they have passed on to me. So
Like, I hope I got that gene.
yes. Anyway, so I have a hole in my heart, a PFO, and that is where a flap that doesn't close all the way. And a lot of babies are born with that, or if they have a heart issue, that's the one they have, and that either closes sometime after birth, or sometimes they have to go in and close it. I also have an ASD, an atrial septal defect, which is an actual hole in the heart, and
between the atrium and
yes. So, and because of that, it causes the shunting. So it's a bidirectional shunt, so it messes with your oxygen and the way that it mixes with your blood. I really have not educated myself enough on this. Do you know why? Because I just found out
that it's bidirectional.
Yes. I knew I had a shunt that I've known for about 4 years, but I had no idea it was bidirectional. Makes a heck of a lot of sense.
But didn't the doctors say something about that's not possible? Didn't one of them say that?
Several of them have, yeah. So now this is pretty common with Ehlers to have structural things wrong with your heart because your heart's a muscle and it's made of collagen.
Yeah.
You know, so but I also have, this is also very common in Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, mitral and tricuspid regurgitation. I would personally think that they would cancel each other out, you know, if one's going to regurg this way. Evidently it doesn't work that way. Also have an aneurysm in my heart, some supraventricular tachycardia because scar tissue somewhere, which the type of Ehlers that I have, I am prone to having more scar tissue than the normal Ehlers person.
Because Ehlers too, you guys keloid more too.
Yeah, I make keloids. Yes. And so I also have a condition called Platenia orthodoxia, which I'm sure I don't say it correctly, but this is very rare, evidently, but with the hole, it's because of the hole. So it's positional, just like POTS is positional, postural, positional, basically. So depending on what position I'm in, the hole gets larger or closes more, you know, as the opening is. So it can make your heart have different types of palpitations. I have different types of palpitations. At least it's interesting and not boring in just one little fast heart rate. You know,
only you and me, only you can take having multiple types of heart palpitations and turn that into a silver lining. It keeps it interesting.
But you know what? I like to research and learn things, and so it fills my curious side, I guess. But yes, I had a doctor tell me that there's no possible way you can have both of those. I've had several. So I also had AFib surgery. And
so you have ablation. Did you have an ablation?
Yes. And see, the good news is I only had to ablate a fourth of my heart. We thought we were going to have to do the whole thing. And I have not been in AFib since, and that was since 21. So when I do have surgery, I stay surgered. I just made that word up. But, I stay fixed. Just rare. I haven't had anything yet that has not stayed fixed. And that's unusual for EDS. And that's only going to get better and better with Carnivore because it's going to support what I have had fixed, okay. So, my heart doctor that did the ablation, he saw in surgery, the hole and the PFO, he saw all of this. And recently, it was in July, I was going to talk to him because I went to a heart doctor at Vandy. I'm not going to say his name, in Nashville.
I was hoping this would go well for you, the one in Vanderbilt.
Yeah. It did not. That doctor was probably 5, 6
I will say it was one of the biggest buttholes. Go ahead.
Yes,
I
he's
said that you
5
did
or 6
not.
years past retirement time for sure.
Mhm.
He told me, and anybody, any heart surgeon, any doctor, any nurse, sit down or hold on to something when I tell you what he told me. He said that the reason that I have a hole in my heart is because they had to put a hole in my heart to fix my AFib. Shocking, is it not? I was like, even I know better than that, sir. And I'm not a medical person. Yeah. Can you believe that? And so all he wanted to do was to verify that I had POTS, which it's called a poor man's tilt table test. We should go over that for people that think they might have POTS. But
Yep.
doing this test makes you feel like crapola for the rest of the day and maybe the week. I don't know. And uh, and I was so happy this happened though because um, he had me lay down and he took my blood pressure, and my blood pressure was like it was like 23 over 15. And I knew that I would be dead if that were the case or about dead. And I'm sitting there talking to me, he goes, I think we better try that again. I was like, thank you, body. I think my body was saying, ha, 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 we got one on you. And that's
3 over 15. You're
me,
still,
father.
yeah, you're all good. It's all good. I would have, now if he would have been like, it's all good, I would have been, oh my gosh.
Well, he definitely told me that he would not do anything for my heart. He would not touch it. There's really nothing wrong. There's no way I have this and this. And I'm okay. Thank you for. I'm glad this is not the only reason I drove all the way to Tennessee from Texas. Thank you so much for your non-time. you know, he also told me at the beginning. He said, "Well, I'm just not sure what you want. I spent a really long time reading through all of your records." And I thought, dude, I sent you a page and a half. Can you not read well? Do you not? just is your comprehension a little
Vanderbilt, do better. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
So, but yeah, it's
So are you actively looking for another person to do the surgery? I know you want that closed, and heck yeah, I think you should get it closed. So
yeah.
here's the thing: are you actually actively looking for somebody?
Last time I actively looked was in July and was told to call this person's office. And I called that office and they don't take insurance. And so it left me in a not being able to be helped by that person. And so,
That's
you know,
not who I sent you to, was it?
um, no, I don't think so. In
I was
Florida?
gonna say, no, this one's in West
Okay.
Virginia.
Yeah. No, I haven't. I have not contacted them because what happens with this, it does get a little bit overwhelming and sad to me because um, it's the one thing that is keeping me from being able to go out and exercise. I shared with you earlier, I've had a hard time the past 2 days catching my breath
Yeah.
because,
Well, when you have that left to right shunt, yeah.
yeah, the shunting. And if they would close the hole, guess what that fixes? It fixes the shunting.
Well,
But
yeah.
I have all of the I forget what they're called. All of the things that show that I would be a good candidate for this. So, I'm just going to kind of sit back and wait. Now, another thing that has improved, you have to know, oh, I left something out. And this is what happens with my heart because there's so much. I also have a pacemaker. I have a pacemaker because my heart was pausing too long. I love this story. We put a tracker in, what do you call it? A monitor, sorry, a heart monitor. We inserted a heart monitor. It's probably about the size of my pinky and
Mhm.
small, not very long, not very small. And it has a microchip in it. And so it watches your heart and reports it to the doctor. And I told all of my church friends that I was getting microchipped and they all freaked out. No, don't do it. Don't.
Not that kind of microchip. I
I
don't
had a
want to
lot of
remove
fun
it.
with that.
I'll remove it.
Yeah, but
Eventually, it'll be
because
removed.
of that, we found out that my heart was pausing like quite a long time. And
How many
so
seconds? You know?
I think it was around 5 or 6, 7, something like that. Enough to like when
Enough
I
to be in 30s or 40s. easy for a heart rate, which is not
Yeah.
good.
And my blood pressure has always been super low, so that doesn't really help it either.
Isn't that also consistent with Ehlers-Danlos though?
It can be with POTS. Yeah, my
Okay.
temperature's low, my heart rate is low, yeah, my blood pressure is low. But there are times with POTS where your blood pressure, when you're standing up for too long, your blood pressure goes way up, your heart rate drops, because you're trying to pump that blood up to and then you pass out, So
I'm sitting here ticking off. I'm like, because I have some hypermobility and my kids are both hypermobile and there's hypermobility in my family. And I'm like, okay, nope, 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 nope. Probably not Ehlers-Danlos. Okay.
Well, and see, I didn't know I had it I didn't know I had any of this until 2012. And so
Or
I
the
had
pot.
yeah, none of it. I mean, heart, POTS, Ehlers, nothing.
That is crazy because
I
you
know.
were even one of the things that you were like, we haven't talked about it, is that you were a missionary,
Mhm.
like in Africa, I believe.
Yes, Nigeria.
Yeah, so you were a missionary, and here you are. You've got these things wrong with you. You've got these holes in your heart. You've got weird problems, and you're in another country.
Yeah, and I also great story. I had taken depression medicine. I had so much depression medicine. I went name it. I've been on it, and it would make me so dizzy I couldn't function. That was because of POTS and mast cell activation disorder. I didn't know. Now I can look back and go, oh, that was not that medication. That was because I have POTS and I have mast cell. So by the time though that I went to Nigeria, I had been on Effexor. It was my second time to be on Effexor. The first time I broke out in hives, and it took 6 months to get rid of them. They put me in the hospital because you can't just stop taking it. So they put me in a depression ward. I was there for 30 days because I was
Getting weaned off of that?
winging off of it because I broke out in hives. And fun stories. I have some fun stories about that. But anyway, who has fun stories about this kind of stuff? Me. Hi, I'm Amy. Anyway, every time they gave me a new SSRI, they took me off of Effexor, put me in the hospital, and then 2 or 3 days they would have me off of everything, and then they would put me on a new SSRI. The next day I'd be broken out in more hives. And it's just because that flare had started, so I wasn't really allergic to every single one of those from mast cell.
From the mast cell.
Yeah, from the mast cell. And then the POTS on top of it, mast cell triggers POTS, POTS can trigger mast cell. So I was just a walking dizzy hive for a long time. But
That's
when I
miserable.
went to Nigeria, I had been on Effexor again, and I started taking uh, maybe it was Cymbalta. No, it's Effexor. I started taking Effexor again, and I got to Nigeria, and I'm not kidding. My first weekend there, I broke out in hives. Huge hives. I had one on my lip that made it stick out past the edge of my head. It was it was awful.
Oh
And they were
gosh.
like, this was on a Friday, and they said on Monday, if you're not better, we have to send you back to the United States because you're going to die. So they gave me this thing called a bitter cola nut. And this is very interesting. The bitter cola nut is a seed of a plant that the plant is very, very sweet. Well, they harvest them and throw the plant away in Nigeria. I know in other places they use that plant for something, but they harvest it, and that seed is what antibiotics are made out of. And so, I know, interesting. So they took me to the pharmacist, and I got this whole bag of them for like $1. And it looks kind of like an almond that's really old, and it has a skin that you peel off of it, and then you take a bite of it, and boy, is it bitter. It ruins the taste of everything. But girl, my hives, it took me 6 months to get rid of those same hives a year before that. Within 2 weeks, those hives were gone, completely gone. And I found
This is
out,
this is where like I love the saying that meat is food and plants are medicine.
yes.
I really I really like that saying.
Okay, so this is something that I did with the bitter cola nut
Mhm.
is that um, Well, first of all, let me just tell you, there they use it for diabetes. I don't know what it does for your diabetes, but people with diabetes eat this. I'm sure it has some lowering effect of blood sugar. Who knows?
Look,
But
making notes. Look up.
look it up. Um, Also, it gets snot out of your body like nobody's business. I didn't even know I had snot in there, and it clears you up. So now, if I get a sinus infection, I go to an African food store and buy some bitter kola nuts.
Better call it. Oh, so you can get them here in the U.S.
Yes, you can. Yeah, you need to go to probably an African food store, but maybe. Well, I don't know if
I
they're.
don't know if we have any African food stores here. Most of the places here are going to be Hispanic and Middle Eastern.
You might be surprised. You might be surprised,
I'm
but
wondering if the Middle Eastern might have it because there's
I was just wondering about that. I don't know if it grows there, but they might have something comparable. Um,
maybe I'll look.
but
I'll go.
you can order it on Amazon, but I'm not sure I would trust it because it depends on how they're stored, how long they last, you know.
Okay.
But however, this stuff it's great. They use it to clean their teeth. And so here's in my screwed up American mind because it is so bitter. Like when you, I mean, I would take the tiniest little bite to eat this whole thing. They for the babies there in Nigeria, they break it up pieces and put it in a Sprite, and that's how they gave it to me. So I would uh, take like putting peanuts in your Coke. I don't know if you ever did that when you were a kid. Same thing, right? But it was so that it wouldn't be so bitter. But you take one tiny little bite, and it makes everything taste like rubber to me for the rest of the day. So I would, whenever I had a sinus infection, what I know now, I'm just shocked at myself that I was dumb enough to do this. But I would go to McDonald's and get sugar cookies and take a giant bite of sugar cookie, a tiny little bite of that for the sweet. I even took sugar cubes and would suck on them to eat that. So it's kind of not they were helpful, but can you imagine how much more helpful they would have been without the sugar feeding the infection I was trying to get rid of?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I can
So
understand, like, now we have things that could probably mask it that are okay.
well, the problem is, listen, when I lived in Nigeria, my mom sent me a care package, some fitted sheets, some personal items, personal products, and a bag of M&Ms. Those kids had never tasted anything like that ever. I went to an American grocery store when I was in Nigeria, and I found a jar of Jiffy peanut butter, and they had some flatbread, and I grabbed it and sat on the grocery floor store and started crying. Oh my God, my life is saved because they eat very, very spicy in Nigeria, and there was nothing I could eat. I lost so much weight living in Nigeria. Not starving, eating disorder, starving. There just wasn't really anything for me to eat. So, but also, and this is important. Listen to this, America. This is important. So they went to a birthday party, and I was like, "Oh, good. They're gonna have a birthday cake." I asked, "Are they gonna have a birthday cake?" They sure are. It's so sweet. It's hard to eat it. It is so sweet. I was so excited, man. And this lady, she was the cake lady in town, like in my hometown. Joe Duncan, she was the cake lady. She made everybody's birthday cake, wedding cake.
Yeah.
Um, and there was another lady, Daphne. She made my wedding cake, and they were so good. And so I have visions of Daphne and Joe, of this woman in this little Nigerian town, right? They cut me a piece of that cake, and I'm like, really brown looking. Okay, well, okay, not brown like as in burnt, but just kind of like the color of dirt brown, just not cake color
Okay.
brown. I take a bite of that. Girl, I couldn't get it out of my mouth fast enough. Of course, etiquette, the missionary prayer is, Lord, I'll put it down if you keep it down. That's the missionary prayer, by the way. So I was praying, Lord, you know the prayer. It tasted like a mouthful of dirt. And they were all, this is so sweet. I can hardly stand it. What does it tell you?
That we eat too much sugar in the United
Yes.
States. You know that.
You go to the market in Nigeria and you're not going to find even a bag of sugar to buy. Nothing with
Too
sugar in it.
expensive. It's
Fruits
too
and
expensive.
vegetables and
Yeah.
bush meat, whatever that may be.
Yeah. Whatever they call Yeah.
So it's very, I mean, it's just interesting to me that the taste buds so much. So that's another thing about carnivore. I have not been tempted to cheat a single time. I don't know if it's my determination. I don't know. I've not craved anything. The only thing I wanted when I first started, because I used up the last of my, what was I drinking? International House, the Swiss mocha,
Oh,
or
yeah.
not
Swiss
really
Miss,
coffee.
or no, well, I know what you're talking about. The
Yeah,
little can.
yeah, not really coffee, not really hot chocolate, maybe somewhere in between. And I would buy the sugar-free, caffeine-free, so I thought it was doing really good. But anyway, that's the only thing that I wished I had more of because it was wintertime. I don't drink coffee. My daddy told me when I was little that coffee puts hair on your chest, and I took him at his word. So I've never really been a coffee drinker. Um, but I found some bone broth that is chocolate flavored, which most people go, "Oh, that sounds disgusting." Y'all, it tastes just like hot chocolate, just
And
like hot
bone
chocolate.
broth. So okay.
No sugar in it, no carbs at all. And so, but I think now I go into the grocery store and you walk past the bakery and you smell that sugar, it's just sickening. It's sickening to me.
Some of it is. There are times when I see what was it? If somebody's showing like a drink or an ice cream float or like ice cream thing that you can get at like a milkshake or something at some gourmet place, and it'd be like a milkshake with a waffle cone and a donut and like candy bars sticking into it, and I'm sitting here going, that's a 5,000 calorie easy, like maybe not, maybe it's like 2 grand, but it's still like, what is that, like 400 grams of sugar in a drink that you're going to just, that my pancreas hurts looking at it. But when I see those things, when I see those, I like get a little sick to my stomach. I'm like, just the thought of that. Your taste buds do change. And now I will say that because I use stevia and allulose, it's a different type of sweet. It doesn't have the same, it's sweet, but I swear it triggers different taste buds. If you eat, like if I go and eat a strawberries to me are almost too sweet now. Like fruit is
Wow.
almost too sweet for me now. Um, I think that like I like to eat zucchini sometimes. Yes, I am about 95% carnivore. So sometimes I eat some zucchini. Or asparagus, depending, but zucchini is sweet to me. Really sweet. And when I like my zucchini, like people are like, I like fried zucchini. I want mine sliced thin and fried in butter and bacon grease to the
Mhm.
almost to the point of getting almost crispy because it almost has that potato chip-ish flavor to it, if you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
So, but those are still sweet. They taste sweet to me.
that's
And
interesting.
it is, yeah. And it's only since going carnivore because I was keto before, and then I went carnivore, and then it's like I can't even hardly eat a strawberry, man. Like it's almost sickening. And then I'm like, why does it taste like there's so much sugar in my zucchini? And it's just because your taste buds do change.
And it's
It's
important to say that, and it's important to know that when you go on carnivore, because if you're a sugar addict and you don't have to be perfect on carnivore, but
mm-mm.
just be consistent. Your consistency means that if you have a day that you're not perfect, but you're going to keep being consistent, that means that, well, then the next meal, you just do the next right thing. You don't just stop everything. That's perfection. When you don't live up to your perfection, you just give up, right? Perfection,
Yeah.
you missing, you give up.
I cheat
Consistent.
with I cheat with keto, just like Dr. Barry has said in his videos. He's like, my cheat days are keto days. Like,
Yeah,
so that's my cheat, is that like I'll be like, oh, look at me. I'm eating zucchini today. Oh, look, I'm eating a salad, crunchy water with glyphosate. Actually, I get organic, so hopefully it doesn't have any glyphosate in it. But it's crunchy water. It's like,
Well,
Like,
it's important. It's
cheat.
important to know that though, because I think people are scared that they'll never. Well, if you're an alcoholic and you're going to stop drinking and you're going to go to AA, I think probably the most scared people on earth are those who decide that they're going to stop whatever behavior they're having and they're going to that first supportive meeting.
Yeah.
You're terrified, because that's your way of life. And so I think the same thing can happen with carnivore. For those that are really addicted, know that if you're consistent, your taste is going to change. Your body is
Exactly.
going to crave different things. You're eventually not, I think, probably not going to miss those. I drink Coke Zero every single day. Why? Because I liked it. I didn't have to have it, but I drank it all the time. If I drank too many, I would get a kidney infection. Like if I had more than 4 or 5 a week, I would get a kidney infection. But January 20th, I probably had a Coke Zero on January 19th. I can pretty much guarantee it. Haven't had one since. Haven't wanted one. Haven't thought, oh, maybe I should. It wouldn't hurt to drink one today. Nope. And it's not because, and I hate the water.
You
What is it
need
called?
seltzer waters. This is Topo Chico.
Yeah. Uh,
I
that's
think
horrible.
this is Topo Chico.
But it's
It's not.
carbonated, right?
It is carbonated.
Yeah, hate that. Hate that. It's got it. I guess I wasn't drinking for the carbonation.
It tastes sweet to me.
Yeah.
Like other people have said that too. That the plain carbonated mineral water, especially Topo Chico, tastes sweet. It's triggering the sweet taste buds in your mouth, and
Interesting.
like it's really interesting. Do you know? I went in for the first time in oh my gosh, I'm forever. So we put our cat down.
Oh.
And,
Oh,
yeah, it's Audrey's cat,
yeah.
and it was like her support animal, and so she wanted to go out and get some coffee, and I said okay, and I let her go out and get some coffee. And I also let her get a cinnamon roll, just some transparency here. Okay. But she was like, Mom, are you going to get a coffee with me? I was like, sure, I'll get a coffee. And they had all kinds of these sugar-free things. So I got a sugar-free, it was like caramel and vanilla. It was made with whole milk. Oops, I didn't know it was made with whole milk. I should have asked and I didn't. And the sugar-free thing had sucralose in it. My blood sugar went from about 95 to over 130
Oh my goodness.
from a whole milk latte made with sugar-free syrup. I had not had anything like that in years. So it was like my body was like, I don't know what this is. I don't know how to react to it. My pancreas was it came down like super fast, which is a good response. But it was like my pancreas was like, wait, what? What? Huh? So it's like firemen being woken up, 10 minutes after the fire started.
Yeah.
It kind of slow on the, slow drag.
Yeah. That's a great example how to explain that for sure. It's okay to I'm not saying that everybody should do what I've done and not have something that you like. I just happen to I think because I appreciate the health benefits that I've seen so far that I don't want to do anything to compromise it, including intermittent fasting.
Yep.
I don't fast on purpose. I eat if I'm hungry. If I'm not hungry, I don't eat. And
Well, talk to, something we didn't cover yet is what you eat. And we need to talk about why you eat what you eat.
yes,
I think it's important. We haven't covered that either.
No. So, interestingly enough, I've had 2 weight loss surgeries. So probably not too uncommon with people with weight loss surgery. At first, I had lap band, and I had lap band 2007, and I lost, I think, around 75 pounds with weight loss. And the lap band was so tight that my esophagus was twisted. Again, I did not know that I had Ehlers-Danlos syndrome then. So now I can understand why my esophagus twisted easier maybe than somebody else's, but because it was so tight. So I went to a bariatric surgeon. I, was like, this isn't, this is uncomfortable. I need help. So ended up having the lap band removed, and my esophagus was twisted for quite some time after that. I guess it's not twisted anymore. I don't know what happened. Could have been the gymnastics I was practicing, the twist. Just kidding. Just kidding. But better than saying the dancing I was doing, because as a Baptist, that wouldn't have been good.
That doesn't go over well with no, not in Baptist.
Oh my gosh. Anyway, I'm censoring a joke I should not tell.
Sorry.
Oh my gosh. Anyway, so in 2014, I did have gastric bypass surgery, and total, I think from, because they make you lose a certain amount before you have your surgery. So from total, I decided to do this until I stopped losing. I lost about 80 pounds, still more than what I weigh now, and more than, so, and a lot of people, weight loss was hard on me because of the POTS. I also didn't realize it was going to be. At this time, I knew about the things I had, but I didn't realize that it was going to be hard on me, the weight loss, just because of the different levels of blood and water in your body, all that kind of stuff. So I lost that weight. And in 2017, I moved in with my parents. My dad had cancer, and I moved in to help. And then I stayed until my mom passed a few years later. But that first probably 6 months of living there, I gained 35 pounds. And it wasn't because I was overeating. It's because I started eating. I hardly ever ate anything, not because I had gastric bypass surgery. I did not feel well enough to prepare meals for myself. So I lived off mainly tortilla chips and salsa. And if I felt well enough to go to the refrigerator to get the salsa, otherwise I just ate tortilla chips, because unfortunately with gastric bypass surgery, there are a lot of things that are hard to get down and swallow, but chips, crunchy things are easy. That for some reason they, but if you get something stuck, so your new stomach is about the size of an egg, and they bypass your small intestine, and they leave a tiny bit of it. And from what I understand, and this is something, y'all, that I just learned not too long ago. There's some revelations I've had, I'll call them that, because they're huge to me, that I've just learned in the past month. Remind me to ask you about trans fat. This is something I learned about that. But
my dog left hair. I am sitting here trying to, sorry about this, guys.
He's a cutie, though.
Like hair on my face that my dog left on me.
Okay, so I think you missed one, right? No, I'm just kidding.
Pickles.
Okay, so basically when you have gastric bypass surgery, you're not supposed to drink 30 minutes before your meal, during your meal, and after 30 minutes after. And nobody's explained that to me, but I think, just thinking through this, which I didn't before, that if you drink water or drink anything with it, not only do you wash it out of your pouch, that's what they call your stomach now. Not only does it wash through there, and so you miss those full signals, but I'm sure that whatever the little bit of food you're going to absorb in your small intestine will be just washed right out before it has a chance to get absorbed.
Maybe. Probably. I think I think you also have an increased risk of dumping.
Well, it depends on what you're eating. Depends on what you're eating. So, and I want people to know that you can do carnivore with gastric bypass surgery. I was told by my surgeon that you can never do a diet. Don't ever diet. You don't need to ever again. And you can't do carnivore or keto. He didn't tell me carnivore at that time, but since then, I found out. Yeah. So lies.
Lies my doctor told me.
Yeah, he needs to put that he needs a whole page for gastric bypass surgery.
Yeah.
So this led me to having some great success, but eating too much fat. So if you eat sugar, I think the rule with gastric bypass surgery, it's been a while now, so forgive me if I get the numbers wrong, but I believe it's like no more than 12 carbs. It might be 20, but I know for me,
I know almost nothing about gastric bypass of like what they're told when they come out. I just know what they can do. I know what you can do if you come to me.
yeah. So, and I, people are going to be watching that have had it, and they're going to be like, I mean, especially if you're saying, no, I'm never going to do carnivore. I don't want to. Really, it's an excuse not to.
Yeah.
But they're going to pick this one apart. No, it's this many carbs. But I think it might be nothing over 20. But I knew for myself, if I ate 12 to 13 carbs, if I ate over that, I was going to have dumping syndrome. If you eat anything fried, you get dumping syndrome. And that's a major problem. I
Do you
think.
not get super nauseous when you eat a whole bunch of carbs too? Because I remember a soldier's wife, interestingly enough, this is sort of like a sore point to me. Like I can't get excess skin cut off doing my by the military, doing it the right way, right? But I could go and be like, I hate my body. Will you give me gastric bypass? And so they'll pay for that. And then they'll pay for the skin removal surgery. But you have to, yeah. But just FYI. So this one soldier's wife went and got gastric bypass, and she went from being easy 300 pounds to about 115. And I watched her eat a whole bagel and then promptly run to the bathroom.
Well,
And
let me tell you why. Yeah, let me tell you why. So I was going to say, we'll get to the vomiting part in a moment. The dumping syndrome, by the way, it does make you very nauseous, sweaty.
Mhm.
It's basically diarrhea, severe diarrhea, like everything you've eaten. That was good. Everything you've eaten up to that point in your life is going to come out of you at that moment in time. It's what it feels like. If you've ever done
Probably what is happening because it goes straight through.
yeah, if you ever done a prep for a colonoscopy, it's
Not there yet.
well, it's similar. I'm just saying, it's not a good, and it's a behavioral modification is one of the things that they use, that they've designed it like that, because that makes you never ever want to eat that again. So,
Yeah.
for instance, I could not eat ice cream, but I could eat yogurt. Ice cream would give me dumping syndrome. Yogurt would not. So,
Okay.
and what you do, you find ways. If you don't, one of the reasons why you're supposed to lose weight before surgery is to see if you can change your eating modification behaviors before surgery. Because if you can't do it before surgery, you can't do it after surgery unless you go through some intense counseling and just are very hard-headed. It's just not going to change. And you go from eating about a fourth a cup of food right at maybe a couple of tablespoons a couple of days after surgery, but 6 months out, you could eat half a cup of food at a time, 4 or 5 times a day. And that's perfectly normal for gastric bypass surgery. A year out, you should be able to eat a plate of food, one plate of food, small, maybe 3 things on your
Like
plate.
toddler size portions.
Maybe a little older, not necessarily toddler. But
Okay.
the other part is that because your pouch is so small, and uh, this was true with lap band too. Depends on the weather, what direction the wind is blowing, what mood you're in, how many times you farted. I mean, whatever, it's not the same. One day I could eat chicken and be perfectly fine. The next day I could swallow one bite of chicken. It's stuck. I have to go throw up. So, openness with you. With an eating disorder where I was purging, I never binged with my eating disorder. I was that dedicated to not binging anymore, but I purged a lot. And it became a stress relief actually for me. But when I had gastric bypass surgery, well, you can't really throw up from your stomach. You can't throw up what has passed through the little pouch. Like if you have the flu and you don't have gastric bypass surgery, you're throwing up. Sometimes that's coming from your intestines, sometimes it's coming from your stomach or the bottom of your stomach. You can't do that with gastric bypass surgery. And so it becomes very, very painful. But bread is not going to go fit through that tiny little bitty hole that your food is passing through. It's probably more like this, that your food is passing through. Then it gets stuck and you do throw up and you get, I can't remember what it's called, but it's almost like a priming that it's going to happen. You get lots of saliva and you can't, a lot of slimy spit. And then it's going to happen. It's miserable. It's painful. More times than not, I have to say honestly that I would go, yes, a free purge, and I didn't even have to do it on my own. My little messed up mind there for a little while. But you know what? There have been on carnivore probably 4 times in 10 months that I've actually gotten something stuck that I had to vomit. That's amazing.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So that's because I'm paying attention. And I'm just not as hungry. Sometimes with gastric bypass surgery, your hunger just hits you. And then if you take too many bites too quickly, you're stuck and you're, throwing it. I know every single bathroom and every restaurant in Fort Worth and which stall is the best to throw up in because of gastric bypass surgery. I'm not kidding. It's just one of the things that it offers you. Yeah. So speaking of blood sugar.
I was going to say, what are you eating now though?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Sorry. Forgot about that. Well, this is one thing that probably I was having. Another reason I started carnivore, was so determined to start because I was having hyperglycemic episodes, reactive hyperglycemic, evidently with gastric bypass surgery. And I was starting to have them every day. And so I thought, well, the only way that you recover when you have a drop is to eat protein. Well, carnivore is going to give you a lot of protein. What if I just do that? Stop eating carbs. So in the beginning, I was able to eat enough fat, had diarrhea probably the first 6 months, just because I had gastric bypass surgery. So I finally figured out that if I eat fat, something really fatty or just flat out fat 1 time a week, I might stretch it out over 2 days, that I'm getting some good fat. Otherwise, I don't buy lean meat on purpose or whatever. But 2 months ago, I decided that was tired of, and I've lost weight consistently the whole time, not as much as I thought that I would. But
I think part of that is your Ehlers-Danlos.
Yes, it has to do with POTS. The POTS, you retain a lot of water.
Yeah.
So, but I decided about 2 months ago now that I was going to go back to the gastric bypass surgery rules and eat more than once a day. Dr. Barry and I talk about this sometimes, that I'm going to have to eat more than once a day with carnivore. It's hard to do 1 meal a day because you can't eat the amount you need during that 1 meal. So,
exactly.
And intermittent fasting also is a little bit difficult because your window of eating needs to be super long in order to get enough for your nutrition. So what I started doing is I started making chaffles. A chaffle is a waffle with a CH, but it's made from eggs. So on my waffle iron, I'll put cheese down. That's something that I added in. Cheese, crack an egg, spread it over the cheese and put more cheese on top and do my chaffle. And I top it with either sour cream or cream cheese to get extra fat in. And it's been doing great. I've lost 10 pounds in the past 2 months doing this. And I take pictures of what I eat. And so I did this in the beginning. I've done this since day one. I take a picture of what I eat so that I can remember it. If I liked it, if I didn't like it, what the portion was like, to start putting that in my head. Did this make me full? I filled out a journal and wrote down how I felt before I ate. I didn't do that every single day, but those first 90 days I said, let me do 90 days. After 90 days, if I hate this, I'll stop doing it. If I feel better, then I'll try to keep doing it. And that's what I did. And I would write down how I felt after I ate it. How hungry was I? Does this feel like this was stuck? Did I feel like it was enough? And I just kept consistently doing this to train my brain into now I can eyeball some. Oh yeah, I bet I can eat exactly half of that. Or, some days I'm hungrier than others. Some days I'm not as hungry as I think. But I started doing these chaffles because it was really easy to eat half of one and then go back later and eat the other half, maybe 2 hours later. And that's
Okay.
basically, I eat meat maybe 3 times a week, mainly hot dogs, already cooked hamburger meat. And sometimes I'll go get some brisket or I buy some already made brisket
Okay.
or sausage links, and by the way, also put vanilla and allulose and pumpkin pie spice and cinnamon in a chaffle, and it tastes like something sweet. So, or McDonald's, I don't know if anybody ever went to McDonald's and bought the sausage
The
pancake
McGriddle or
combination. Yeah, yeah.
the McGriddles. Yeah.
So this is similar to that. Put a lot of butter on my chaffle and put a sausage link in there and roll it up and, like, oh, this is interesting. So I'm not one for trying to find a replacement of what something else. I'm more of, I've never tried this. Let me try it. And the only thing that I've ever used, well, I didn't even use it for replacement, but my best friend are baking crumbles that I buy at Sam's already cooked.
Okay.
And so I put them in the microwave, about a fourth a cup of them. And sometimes I'll put cheese on it. But after I take them out, put them in for like 45 seconds, maybe a minute, depending on how much crispier. Put lots of salt on them with butter. And it's like this is like eating popcorn or potato chips. So it's a great way to get that salty crunch in and still say 100% carnivore. And that's probably that and my bone broth are the only two things that I would say I replaced with this, but I didn't crave them in the first place,
Yeah.
Um, so, yeah, so it's the chaffles. This morning I woke up and I was very nauseous. I have no idea what's going on, but I usually have a cup of bone broth in the morning or a protein drink. I do drink protein drinks, um, just because I don't eat enough meat. Maybe I get enough with the eggs, but I'm eating basically 2 eggs a day with probably altogether the cheese, maybe a half a cup of cheese total, maybe 3/4 of a cup. And then whatever I'm putting on top, and it varies. Sometimes I put pepperoni in, make my egg, put pepperonis on there, and then put more cheese on, and that's yummy. Um, so you just got to do what you got to do, what feels good for your body, and
Exactly.
keep track of what you're doing. Pay attention, take pictures of what you eat. I'm telling you that works. And you got your phone right there in your face while you're eating it anyway. Take a picture of it. And now I'm actually using my
Always
food
for,
art.
always forget to post it. I'm like,
Well,
here, I've got all this food that I've made. Oops.
I don't post mine either, and I should because it gives a little bit of accountability as well,
Yeah.
but it helps others see what are you doing, what,
Mhm.
oh, that looks good. I'm going to try
Mine is
that.
so boring. It's always the same thing. So it's like, I'm not gonna it's like usually I'm a creature of habit. I'm one of those people that can literally eat the same thing every day and be kind of okay with it, you know? And it's
Hmm.
usually like the frozen burger patties, eggs, butter, and then beef again for dinner. I can't do one meal a day. I just can't. I can do 2 meals. If I
Hmm.
did one meal a day, I'd end up with like 900 calories a day, and then I'd be a very angry person.
Yes. And it's funny that the whole calorie thing, my entire life, if I ate more than 900 calories a day, I gained weight. I cannot do the recommended, I would gain 20 pounds every week. I don't know. My hypothyroidism, PCOS,
Mhm.
um, parahyperthyroidism that I've had hyper and hypothyroidism at the same time. Let's see. I have lupus, rheumatoid arthritis. Um, by the way, if I lived on a planet where everybody had Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, this would be so normal, so normal. But since I don't, I'm the odd one out. Like people that didn't have those things would be the odd ones out there. But I also have hemochromatosis. I've only known about that for about 5 years. I think I was age appropriate when I found out. But doing phlebotomies, we couldn't
Mhm.
figure out, you know what? I'm just putting this together in my head right now. Get a phlebotomy, and I end up in the hospital because I can't breathe. Bidirectional shunting. I never realized that I probably should not get full phlebotomies with a bidirectional shunt. So my doctors, God has blessed me so much, Bekah, with I'm just telling you. And this is maybe why I find my silver lining, because God blesses me. My doctor, my hemochromatologist, I've seen him since hemochromatologist. Did you hear me say that? Did you know there was a hemochromatologist?
Hematologist. But yeah, I knew what you meant.
Oh, that cracks me up. Oh my gosh. Amy's
I'm also a master interpreter.
That's good. To be my friend, you kind of have to be. Oh my gosh. My hematologist, I've seen him since about 2012. He's so wonderful. But I said, hey, what if I did a half a phlebotomy and went back the next week and did another half? He said, yes, we tried it, and guess what? It works. And so
Okay.
I've just been blessed that most of
Liz,
my doctors are open enough to trust me.
most of them.
2 of them are. Yeah, anyway. But you can also do carnivore if you have hemochromatosis. It's possible.
We have seen that question a lot in the group. Like,
Yeah.
or like on lives. They'd be like, I have this. Can I do this? Yes, you can.
Yeah.
It's like,
So if
I have XYZ. Can you do carnivore?
yes.
Yes. Yes, you can. I don't think that there's anything on this planet that you could have that you can't somehow do a carnivore diet. Even if you have alpha-gal, you can do it. It's going to suck and it's going to be very boring and limited, but you can do it.
But you know what? When you feel better mentally and you're not struck down with depression, which the food that you're eating is the biggest part of what's causing your depression to begin with, you don't know that. It makes all of your circumstances seem worse. So your situational depression, for me, my situational depression was named a bag of chips because that's what was putting me in the situation that made my situation so bad to be depressed. Do you know what I'm saying? Like so many women my age that they go home and they sit down and they maybe eat dinner, maybe don't, but if they don't, they're snacking on something because they've snacked for lunch and they probably didn't have breakfast either. So now they don't feel good.
I really think that everybody after, I don't know what age group it is, but definitely in the 80s, we were cereal snackers, and cereal not with a C, but cereal with an S. You know, like cereal snackers, because it's like, oh, we graze throughout the day. And what we don't understand is every time you put something food substance wise, whether it's real whole food or whether it's processed frankenfood, it doesn't matter. Every time you ingest food, insulin is dumped. Now, obviously different foods elicit a different insulin response. Fat, almost nil. The bump in insulin with fat is so tiny that it's almost negligible. Protein, a little bit more. Carbohydrates is through the roof. And if you put carbs with fat, insulin goes up. Everything gets stored. All that fat you just ate with those carbs is going to get stored.
See, that's what I'm talking about. That's why the Snickers are in my right leg and the Oreos are in my left.
I know, right? We're back to the legs, the Oreos.
But it's very, very much true that you don't have any motivation to do anything. You know that you have things to do and you don't feel like getting up and doing it. And you just begin to feel so hopeless. The last thing you want to do is try to plan a meal that you got to get up and go cook. And this should be the theme of my life for carnivore. This was the easiest thing I have ever done in my entire life. To this day, I don't have to think about what I'm going to eat. What I have to keep track of, do I have enough eggs or do I need to run to the store to get some eggs? That's it. I don't have to think about what I'm going to eat. I don't have to stand up and prepare a whole lot of stuff. Everything is quick. I can run. My favorite thing to do is if I'm going to a doctor's appointment or whatever, it's my treat to myself. go to Sonic, get 3 sides of bacon. I eat those 3. I think that gives you, because they break them in half, probably about, I don't know, 3 slices of bacon and then 3 halves. So 4.5 slices of bacon, technically, that I'm getting for. I know I could buy a whole package of bacon for that price, but that's my one thing that I get so excited, almost like a reward. Okay, well, I have a doctor's appointment tomorrow morning at 10. I don't have to think about breakfast. I'll just go get my, 3 sides of bacon, and then I'm
Yep.
not even hungry for lunch if I do that. And you find out what's going to keep you full longer. But I was so hopeless. Still, there's so many things, Bekah, that I have to do right now in my home, and because I'm getting ready, I want to sell my home and get on the road in my van as missionary. And so I'm still very overwhelmed what all I have yet to do. But at least now I know I have the ability to start on it myself or get it done myself. Thank God for my organizing counselor who has a heart to come and help me, but I'm going to storage a couple of days a week and working on going through things to make room for the things in my house to be in storage. I mean, it's all a process, but this is the most hopeful. I say this all the time to Dr. Barry, and he nearly cries every time. But this is the most hopeful that I have ever been about my health in my entire life. It's just, I see possibilities and that I can go and do what God has called me to do. I didn't have to retire from missions because, I can't walk. Now, getting my heart fixed, is it going to help me be better on the mission field? Yes. If I could get out and go for a walk, that would be great. So I still have to arrange that I'm working on stuff while I'm sitting down, but I can still stand up longer than I could. My wheelchair is at storage, so I can always open it up and use it for my chair to sit down in. But I have other chairs there. But it's a great reminder.
That's an important thing that we have not touched on, is that you used to be in a wheelchair, and now the wheelchair has been officially put into storage.
Yes.
And because of the carnivore diet.
Yes. I could not stand up. Anytime I left my house, I used my wheelchair. So I have a big old giant, very old Scooby-Doo van. It's not that cool, but
you can paint it.
I need to paint it. Excuse me. But so I would have to take my wheelchair in and out of my car. It weighs about 50 pounds. And so I would injure myself every single time. I would dislocate a finger, pull a muscle, injure myself taking it out, and then I would injure myself putting it back in. And therefore, I did not take it out and bring it into my home, but I hardly ever stood up. So I really didn't need, it was like, I didn't want to injure myself to bring it into the house when I don't ever really get up and do anything, So, but probably the second week of March, I was able to put it in storage. So a month and a half, we'll call it, after starting Carnivore. I couldn't walk a long distance. I couldn't stand in line anywhere. I'd had the chair for about 4 years, I think, right around 4 years. And it changed my life when I got that chair. Thank God for that life, because the chair, I was stuck at home and couldn't go anywhere. But the fact that now, I said this the other day, that regular church service, I could stand up and sit down just like everybody else through the song service and not nearly pass out, and maybe even stand up and talk to somebody for 10 or 15 minutes after church. Could have never done that before. My counselor, every time she sees me, you're doing so much more than you could have done even 6 weeks ago. So yeah, it's a pretty amazing, miraculous story over here at my house. Even I'm, shocked by it, a lot. But just health, health is everything you have. And
Exactly.
if you don't make steps, I never believed this when I was your age.
You act like I'm young.
Well, no, it's just because I'm old. But I never believed it when they said, you need to take care of your skin. You need to take care of your health, because when you're old, you're going to be sorry that you didn't.
It's so true. That's why I've tried to get my daughter to start doing that.
So, but if you start as a carnivore, you don't have to do that. And you know what? I don't have my books with me, but speaking of children and carnivore,
Speaking of, Miss Amy has teamed up with the great Lynn, and they have this amazing, these 2 books so far. There's more on the way. And go ahead and take it away and tell us about these 2 books.
So one is a comic activity coloring recipe maker book, storybook with the superhuman power foods for humanity. And they are teaching children how to eat carnivore and what the standard American diet, the SAD diet, does for you. And so you can go to my YouTube channel, or you can type my name in on Amazon and find them. The kids love them. There's a place to make your own comic, to gather recipes, make your own recipes, coloring book, coloring pages, activity pages. And so the second book that we have is called Sugar Cubie, the Sugar Monster. And it's just a storybook, but that is starring Dr. Barry's children, Bonnie and Bekah, and they go visit their grandma Barry.
Granny Barry.
Yes, Granny Barry. And so the Sugar Cubie monster sprinkles sugar in everybody's lunch and on their snacks. And so, these kids, they eat all of that and they go to Granny Barry's house and they're gripey and tired. And she goes, "What's wrong with you? Why are you so gripey? Do you have the flu or something?" And they're like, "We don't know." And so then the baby speaks up and says, "Oh, but we've had these treats." And Granny Barry said, "Oh, now I know what's wrong with you." So she calls in the superhuman power foods, which are basically power beef, power bacon, power butter, and power egg, to come in and teach the kids about how sugar makes them tired and sick. And so they're really cute books, great for carnivores. I've been saying that there's no other carnivore books for kids on the market, but I think Michelle Hearn has one. I don't know if hers is a storybook.
Hers is a storybook, and it's about foxabetes.
Yes. So there's just not many. Oh, cool. I need to get her book and read it. I actually know her. She's very cute.
It is super cute. It is. It's very adorable.
So we're going to have a series of these, and any of the kids, our next book is coming out, and Bonnie and Beckett are going to help a friend who is very sick from eating. I can't remember what he's eating. Potatoes, any form of potatoes. And so he's very sick from that, and he gets in trouble because he can't do his chores, because he doesn't feel good or he'll forget. And so they teach him about, the carnivore diet, and every child that teaches their friends about carnivore becomes one of the superhero power food gang members. And so we're so excited about that. We'll have a series, and hopefully it'll, go into more than just that. But it's a lot of fun. I have a passion for helping kids because of my background as growing up, not understanding. If my mom would have taken time to explain to me, why she was doing this for me instead of it feeling like she was doing it to me, then I would have had a lot different life. I'm convinced of that. I gain weight easily and don't lose it easily. So that's just my genetic makeup. And all of my blood work, by the way, is smack dab in the middle of like perfect.
Yeah.
Never in my life has that happened, ever. So, man, and my diagnosis is there. Have I ever sent you a list of them? I should. Oh, you should take it. You should take it to class with you and just say, "What do y'all think? Is this person still alive or not?"
Thank God, all my classes are online.
Good. No, but it's just exciting, that I can hopefully, help some kids and start them early so that they can be their very best growing up instead of waiting till they're old like the rest of us and like, "Oh, wow, I had the potential to do that when I was 13. Wonder where that went." Well, guess what? It's going to come back. You're going to be able to, I doubt that I'll ever become the gymnast that I wanted to be. That's probably far gone. However, I could I could bend over and stand up and not pass out. So that's progress right there.
Progress. All right. Well, this has been fun. This
yes,
has been
so many topics. I knew we would have so many topics.
So
we're topical carnivores. How's that?
The what?
We're topical carnivores.
Topical carnivores. That's so true. There's always something more. There's always something more.
Yeah.
And we can try to hit that. We'll try to hit more next time.
Yes, for sure. Good, good. Thank you. I had so much fun. Thank you.
Absolutely. I'm glad that you decided that you would be here.
Yeah, of course. I wouldn't have missed it for nothing in the world except for maybe some bacon. I don't know. No, I'm just
Or
kidding.
maybe something Dr. Barry had on. I think he had something on today. Did he?
I think so. Yes.
Either that or there's something tonight.
Maybe it's not till this afternoon. I don't know. No, he
I
was
don't know.
interviewing somebody today.
Maybe.
I can't
I'm
ever.
behind because I've had just nothing but a bunch of schoolwork to do.
What would you like for me to check really quickly? See, and this is why you need to come join.
Nah, it's okay. I'll look it up later.
No, I mean that people that are listening, they need to come. They need to come join the Mighty group.
It'll be in the description. It's always in the description. I'm going to have a description. Yeah, let's do an ending real quick. Thanks everybody for joining me and Amy today, and we will see you next time. Everything will be in the description that you need to know. Bye, guys.
Bye.